I wasted all of my youth being immobile and massive and like too fat to kind of enjoy it. Like, I'm really mad right now. Like, I'm mad at myself. Like, why did I let that happen?
My 600-Pound Life, stars who turn their lives around. Some people face challenges that feel impossible to overcome. And for the stars of My 600-Pound Life, obesity wasn't just about weight. It affected every part of their lives. From Milla Clark to James Jones, here are 5 inspiring stories of My 600-Pound Life stars who turn their lives around. Journeys that show how determination, support, and courage can lead to incredible transformations.
A lot has changed. I'm most proud for losing as much weight as I have and slowly getting back into society like I should have been.
Each is a reminder that no matter how heavy the burden, change is possible when you decide to fight for your life. Milla Clark, from bed to bravery. Milla Clark weighed over 750 pounds when her life reached a breaking point. But what happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. A journey that turned despair into hope and immobility into unstoppable strength. Milla's story is one of the most remarkable transformations in My 600-Pound Life history, not just because of the pounds she lost, but because of the courage and determination she displayed at every stage of her journey. At first, she was entirely bedbound. She could not stand, walk, and relied on her children for even the simplest daily tasks. Her mobility had been restricted for years, and her health is in serious danger.
Every single day of my life is miserable. I've been trapped within these 4 walls for more than 2 years. During that time, I have not stood, not one time.
But the most heartbreaking part isn't just the weight, it's the emotional toll. Years of isolation, compounded by a toxic marriage and emotional trauma, left Milla feeling trapped and hopeless. Food became a source of comfort, but it also chained her to a life she so desperately wanted to escape. Every day in that bed, she watched her life pass her by, longing for freedom but unsure if it was ever possible. When Dr. Now first assessed her, it was clear that Milla's challenges were both physical and emotional. Her health was fragile, and even basic mobility was impossible. Yet there was a spark in her, a quiet strength that hinted she could fight back. Unlike some patients who resist guidance, Milla listened carefully to Dr. Now's advice. She understood that this transformation would require not just weight loss, but a total lifestyle overhaul, including strict diet adherence, physical therapy, and mental resilience. The early stages were grueling. Milla faced pain, frustration, and moments of doubt as she adjusted to her new life. Every small movement, every meal plan followed, felt like a battle. She endured difficult surgeries and the arduous process of losing hundreds of pounds. But she remained determined, motivated by the dream of standing again, walking freely, and reclaiming her independence.
Milla has done well. She lost the weight she needed, so this time I'm going to approve her for lymphedema surgery. This is a great improvement for her because everybody in her household was accustomed to bringing her high-calorie food.
Along the way, she experienced the ups and downs of emotional healing, confronting years of buried trauma and guilt over relying on her children. At one pivotal moment, reflecting on her struggles and the intense journey she faced, Milla said, "I may have been trapped for years, but I refuse to let my past define me anymore." That line perfectly encapsulates her bravery and determination, showing how she fought to reclaim control over her life. Over the course of her journey, Milla lost hundreds of pounds, underwent multiple surgeries, including skin removal, and regained the ability to stand, walk, and care for herself independently. Beyond the physical changes, she experienced profound emotional growth, building confidence, resilience, and a renewed sense of purpose. Her children, once her caregivers, could now witness their mother thrive, no longer defined by her limitations. Her transformation is more than just numbers on a scale. It's a complete life turnaround, showing that no matter how dire the circumstances, change is always possible. Next, we'll explore the story of Amber Raki and her inspiring transformation. Amber Raki, rising above the weight. Amber entered my 600-pound life at a crossroads, her health failing, her confidence shattered. What followed was a transformation that proved even the youngest, most overwhelmed patients can turn their lives around completely. At just 23 years old, Amber faced severe obesity, weighing over 660 pounds, with limited mobility and extreme anxiety. Her relationship with food had spiraled out of control, and binge eating had become both a coping mechanism and a barrier to her health and happiness.
Food, it's a comfort, and it's helping me avoid reality. I have a lot of anxiety, and I don't like it, and I am at peace while I eat.
From the moment she met Dr. Now, it was clear that Amber's journey wouldn't just be about the numbers on a scale. She struggled not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. Years of unhealthy habits, coupled with low self-esteem, had created a cycle that seemed impossible to break. But underneath the fear and anxiety was a young woman determined to reclaim control over her life, even if the road ahead was daunting and full of challenges. Amber's early days in the program were tough. Her body and mind had to adjust to a completely new routine. She learned to follow a strict diet plan, attend physical therapy sessions, and confront the emotional reasons behind her overeating. Each step forward was a battle, sometimes small, sometimes monumental, but she kept pushing. Her support system, including family and friends, became a crucial part of her success, helping her stay accountable during moments of doubt. Throughout her journey, Amber faced moments of emotional vulnerability that were hard to watch. There were tears, outbursts, and moments when it seemed like the weight of her life might be too much to carry. But one line shared during a particularly emotional session with Dr. Now captured her determination and growth. "I can't let this control me anymore. I'm done letting food run my life." This declaration of strength marked a turning point in her journey, reflecting the mental and emotional shift that was just as important as her physical progress. As Amber continued to lose weight, her confidence and independence grew. She lost over 400 pounds, gained mobility, and started to engage in activities she had never imagined possible before. Beyond the physical transformation, she experienced profound emotional growth, overcoming anxiety and gaining a sense of control over her life. She went from feeling trapped and hopeless to embracing her newfound strength and independence with courage and optimism.
A year ago, I'm not sure I believed my life would ever get any better. A year ago, I didn't have hope. Now, I'm shopping for myself, I'm eating healthy, and I'm working out. I'm able to go out in the world and kind of enjoy life a bit more. Life is totally different for me now.
By the end of her story, Amber Raki had achieved more than just weight loss. She had transformed her lifestyle, rebuilt her relationship with food, and gained the emotional resilience to face life head-on. Her journey is an inspiring example of how determination, support, and accountability can lead to lasting change, no matter how young or overwhelmed someone may feel at the start. Amber's fight was inspiring, but Chuck Turner's journey proves that personal tragedy can be a catalyst for life-altering change. Chuck Turner, carrying the weight of grief. Some people carry weight on their bodies, and some carry it in their hearts. For Chuck Turner, both were crushing him at the same time. And his journey on My 600-Pound Life shows how he fought to reclaim everything. At over 600 pounds, Chuck wasn't just battling obesity. He was grappling with grief, depression, and the aftermath of losing his wife.
My wife was murdered. Yeah, it just floored me. She was a good person, my best friend. I just couldn't take it, so I turned to food.
His physical weight, reflected the emotional burden he had been carrying for years, and every aspect of his life, from mobility to relationships, was affected. Chuck's journey began with the first step into Dr. Now's clinic, a moment that was both terrifying and hopeful. He knew he had to take responsibility, but like many patients, he had built years of habits around food that were hard to break. The doctor laid out a strict plan: careful calorie control, regular exercise, and mental focus. Chuck's first challenges were simple in theory, but difficult in practice. Learning to eat in moderation, tracking every meal, and committing to daily movement. But these small, consistent actions would eventually compound into life-altering results. Early on, Chuck struggled emotionally as much as physically. Grief had left him isolated, and the weight had only made him more withdrawn. Yet he began to show signs of determination. He engaged with therapy to work through his loss, joined support groups, and leaned on the people who cared about him. Dr. Now emphasized that change wasn't just about losing pounds, but about reshaping his life, habits, and mindset. And Chuck started to take that advice seriously. Each day he stuck to his diet, pushed himself in physical therapy, and confronted emotional triggers. He was reclaiming control in ways he hadn't thought possible. Chuck's dedication quickly translated into measurable progress. Pounds came off steadily, and he gained the mobility he hadn't had in years. But even more importantly, he started to regain confidence in himself. He reconnected with family, embraced responsibilities he had avoided, and began planning for a future that didn't revolve around grief or food.
My whole life has changed, and I feel like a new man. I'm on the road to being a better husband and a better father.
His journey wasn't perfect. Setbacks happened, and old habits occasionally crept in, but Chuck's resilience became the driving force that kept him moving forward. One of the moments that best reflects his emotional shift came when he admitted during a therapy session, "I can't let my past losses define the rest of my life. I have to fight for me now." That statement captures the essence of his transformation, the emotional breakthrough that made his physical change possible. By the end of his story, Chuck Turner's transformation wasn't just about numbers on a scale. It was about rebuilding a life from heartbreak, regaining independence, and proving that with determination, even the heaviest burdens can be lifted. His journey reminds us that change is not only about losing weight, but also about reclaiming control over your life, and that sometimes the greatest victories come from healing the heart as much as the body. If Chuck's journey was about healing, Christina's is all about taking charge. Christina Phillips, fighting back and winning. At over 600 pounds, life had become a struggle. Every step was painful, and every day felt overwhelming.
It's hard because of my weight. Just simple walking from the living room to the bedroom, I'm out of breath. I feel like my knees are gonna collapse.
But one decision set a journey in motion that would change everything. Christina Phillips had spent years feeling trapped in her own body, relying on food for comfort, and battling the frustration and isolation that came with extreme obesity. She knew that if she didn't take action, her health and independence were at serious risk. Her journey began the moment she stepped into Dr. Now's clinic. The initial assessment was eye-opening. Not only was her weight life-threatening, but her mobility was severely limited. Every aspect of her life, from basic movement to social interactions, was affected. Yet beneath the fear and uncertainty, there was a spark of determination. Christina knew that change would require more than just dieting. It would demand commitment, mental resilience, and the willingness to confront long-standing emotional habits. Early in her transformation, Christina faced challenges that tested her patience and perseverance. Adjusting to a strict calorie-controlled diet, incorporating regular physical activity, and learning to recognize emotional triggers were all new experiences. Some days were frustrating, and setbacks occasionally shook her confidence. But she learned to approach each day step by step, The consistency she showed in following her plan, attending therapy sessions, and participating in physical activity became the foundation of her success. Christina's emotional growth was just as significant as her physical transformation. Years of relying on food to cope with stress and loneliness had created a cycle that was hard to break. Through therapy and self-reflection, she started understanding the emotional reasons behind her eating habits. She began confronting difficult feelings and learning healthier coping mechanisms. At one point, during a session reflecting on her progress, she said, "I can finally see that I'm stronger than my fears, and I won't let this weight define me anymore."
So many dreams. I want to start living my life. So I'm going to push myself and try harder to keep losing weight.
This moment captured the essence of her mental shift, the inner strength that fueled her lasting transformation. As the weeks and months progressed, the results became undeniable. Christina steadily lost weight, regained mobility, and improved her overall health. Simple tasks that had once been impossible, like walking without assistance or standing for extended periods, became achievable. Beyond the physical improvements, she regained confidence, independence, and a sense of control over her life. Family relationships improved, and she began envisioning a future she never thought possible. By the end of her journey, Christina Phillips had accomplished more than just losing hundreds of pounds. She had transformed her lifestyle, rebuilt her relationship with food, and embraced the emotional resilience necessary to sustain her progress. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that determination, support, and consistent effort can overcome even the most daunting challenges. Next, James Jones shows how determination can rewrite your story too. Man who refused to give up, James Jones. For years, James's world revolved around food and immobility. At over 700 pounds, every day was a struggle until the day he made a choice that would turn despair into hope.
He was 750 pounds, and he's been that size ever since.
James had spent most of his life feeling trapped, unable to perform even the simplest daily tasks without assistance. His health was deteriorating, his mobility was nearly gone, and every day brought new challenges that seemed impossible to overcome. When he first met Dr. Now, it was clear the journey ahead would be grueling. James needed a structured diet, regular exercise, and mental focus to break free from the cycle that had controlled his life for so long. He was aware that failure wasn't an option. He had to take full responsibility for his health if he wanted to survive and thrive. The beginning wasn't easy. James had to confront long-standing habits and emotional reliance on food as comfort. He learned to carefully track meals, stick to a strict calorie plan, and commit to consistent physical activity. Therapy sessions helped him explore the emotional triggers behind his eating patterns, and support from friends and family became a crucial lifeline. Slowly but surely, the combination of discipline and accountability began to pay off. As the weeks passed, the physical results became noticeable. James lost hundreds of pounds, gained mobility, and regained confidence in himself. The small victories, walking without assistance, completing exercises he never thought possible, and following his meal plan consistently, added up to a total life transformation. Beyond the scale, James developed a new mindset, one that valued health, persistence, and self-respect. One powerful moment in his journey came when he admitted during a check-in, "I finally realize I'm worth the fight, and I won't let my weight control my life anymore." That line perfectly reflects his determination and the emotional shift that made his physical transformation possible. By the end of his journey, James Jones had achieved what many thought impossible. He not only shed hundreds of pounds, but reclaimed his independence, rebuilt his confidence, and created a new life full of possibilities. His story proves that even in the face of extreme challenges, change is possible when determination and support come together. These 5 journeys prove that change is always possible, no matter how heavy the burden. Which transformation inspired you the most? Could you see yourself taking that first step toward change? If you loved these stories, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring journeys. Remember, every small step counts as your transformation starts with deciding to try.